Hi, welcome to the Property Playbook. Each week we are bringing on experts to help make landlords smart. So I am joined today with my colleague, Mark Ignacio, with Mark Ignacio Law. He's a trust and estates attorney. And we're here to just talk about how this impacts landlords and the importance of trusts and planning in the overall financial scheme of things. So glad to have you here.
Yeah, thanks, Peter. Appreciate it.
Awesome. So let's get right to it. What got you into law?
Obviously, it's a really awesome topics of death and incapacity, right? I mean, just want to dive right into all that.
Who doesn't? Who doesn't love death and incapacity?
Exactly. So for the longest time, I've actually wanted to be in the medical field. I wanted to be a doctor. So I was just that nerdy kid, always taking those honors and AP classes, science classes. And then my junior year of high school, I was actually selected to participate in some sort of boot camp up in Sacramento for people who want to pursue law. I just kind of wanted to say, okay, cool, I got selected, gonna get a scholarship out of it. Well, let's just check it out. And that was incredibly transformative. It was about a week-long process where for the first time in my life, I was actually able to engage specifically with attorneys, with judges, with people who were leveraging the law and making impact in people's lives. So incredibly transformative. Went back home, told parents, hey, I'm gonna be an attorney now. So they were thrilled. My stepfather had a business. He kind of wanted me to take on those reins, especially with a legal background. That would have been really awesome opportunity for me to go in there that way. So decided to pursue that path, wanted to actually be a prosecutor. First day of law school was criminal law. That got real really quick. Murders, X, Y, and Z. It's like, okay, criminal law. It's not going to be the way to go.
Rule that out.
Not at all. And then it's like, okay, hey, I'm a big sports fan. I want to get into sports law. I want to get into entertainment law. Recognize this is not feasible for me. It's not realistic. So it's like, okay, let me just try to find my path. I know I want to pursue law. I know I want to impact people's lives. And the last year of law school for me, unfortunately, my stepfather passed away. And he did have an estate plan, but unfortunately, it was just incomplete. So as a result, my mom and I, we had to go through probate, California probate, and she had to pay a ton of taxes. And guess what? All that could have been completely avoided. So that's where further that ringing in my ear, ringing in my heart, is like, okay, hey, you know what? I did not like how that felt. My mom did not like how that felt. We could have done something better. If the attorneys were actually able to communicate appropriately, if the plan was updated more frequently than it was. So that's where I steered my direction into this type of law, specifically trust and estates.
Got it. So as a landlord, should they have a trust? Does it make that big of a difference?
It certainly does. It certainly does. So we always think about, like I mentioned, death and incapacity here, right? The fun topics of all of that. So whenever we have a trust, think of it as that entity where, you hold this entity and you're going to have certain different assets involved with it. As a landlord, you want to make sure that your rental property is in the trust. Because if something should happen to you, you don't want a stranger / a judge telling you who gets to rule certain aspects of your tenancy here with your tenants. You want everything in place within that trust. So it's going to be incredibly important for landlords to have a trust set up, and even more critical to put their rental properties into that trust. Yeah.
So I've heard people say, well, I've got a will, so that should be sufficient, right?
It's not.
Why is that? Why is it? But you say this person's getting this property or whatever. Right. How is that not sufficient?
So we always have to go back on what the default rules are. The default rules say that, hey, if you don't have proper planning in place, you will get kicked to probate court once you pass away. And this is a very important consideration. If people only have and exclusively have a will, it will necessarily go through probate. The estate will go through probate once you pass away. A will is just a document. It's like a compass. It directs where things are going to go, who's going to be in charge. But if you have a trust, think of it as like this cup, right?
All right.
It's filled with water. It should be filled with your assets. Everything that's in this cup, in this trust, is going to be avoiding probate.
Is probate really that bad?
Yeah.
Why is probate bad?
So for example here, Peter, San Diego, we are the 5th most populated county in America. The 5th most populated county in America. And recently we just got appointed a 4th probate judge to deal with everything within this county. So that means when there's a death, when there's a conservatorship, when there are disputes, only those 4 chambers hear that. So it takes a while for probate to be settled.
A while, we're talking like a couple weeks?
Year and a half.
Year and a half. Ooh.
Year and a half. So real property could be sold, it could be rented out during that time, right? But the beneficiaries, the family members, don't actually get that money until everything has been completed. Until that judge like smacks that gavel and says, okay, everything is done. And that's assuming everybody's cool with each other. That's assuming nobody is going to be throwing any haymakers at each other. It is assuming everybody gets along, right? But all it takes is just one person to just not be cooperative, and this thing can go on for even more years.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
So if you're a landlord and you have a rental property and you pass away or become incapacitated, what happened? Like, do the beneficiaries, are they still able to collect rent? Do they still have to pay the property taxes? How would something like that work?
Yeah. It's a great question.
No will or no trust in place. How does that work?
There's no trust in place, and you're kind of put in this purgatorial period, right? So let's just say that, heaven forbid, you have a landlord, and they own one property that's producing some rents, it's doing pretty well, but they get diagnosed with Alzheimer's. Well, you don't want that landlord to be collecting rent, right? You don't want that landlord to be engaging in some contracts. If there's nothing in place, the courts get involved and they get a conservatorship to appoint somebody that the landlord may not know, that the landlord may not want to actually engage in those affairs. Not just the landlord-tenancy relationship, but everything around them.
Would that be like a fiduciary that's assigned or something?
So usually family members have priority. And again, if you want your kids who you haven't talked to in years not be in this position, go create an estate plan. Otherwise, they will have priority to be the ones that take over.
Okay. So then that begs the question, if somebody does have a trust in place and everything's done correctly, how does that impact their rental property or their estate?
Right. So let's say that, landlord just gets injured or some sort of situation where they're mentally incapacitated and they can't control and run the rental property there, right? So if they have a trust in place, they've already appointed a successor trustee to then take over everything, including all the issues associated with the landlord-tenant relationship. So if that landlord that's incapacitated now needs some money to help pay for doctors, for nurses to help take care of them, well, you have a plan in place, hopefully, where that successor trustee can then be the one that collects rent, can then maybe increase the rent or rent it out or do whatever is necessary to acquire those rents to pay for what's that incapacitated trustee will have.
Got it. So that would sound like a terrible situation if you're incapacitated and you have need for those funds, but you don't have the ability to collect or use those funds. You could be in a pretty tight spot.
Absolutely. I've had several clients where their parents created trusts several decades back, which is awesome, right? You want to have a plan in place many years before than a second too late, right? So they've already created this system where their kids are going to be the ones that take over. Parents get much older and they just don't want to deal with anything. Hey, the parents are able to resign from being the trustees. The kids can then appoint themselves now as the new trustees, and they can coordinate those efforts to maybe rent out a new place, maybe to sell the existing property, go get a bigger property here they can get more rents so that they can have that passive stream of income to help take care of their aging parents.
So the trustee doesn't need to be passed away or incapacitated in order for the successor trustee to be able to step in.
Not at all.
So it's almost like you got somebody on the bench ready to go.
That's it. They're just get ready to warm up there. And then when their name is going to be called, whatever situation arises, death, incapacity, old age, or just whatever, you already have somebody in place.
Got it.
Yeah.
Excellent. So kind of switching gears here, do trusts shield people from liability?
Some trusts do.
Really? Talk to me about that.
Yeah. So we understand that when you take on this undertaking of really renting out a property that you own. You put your own blood, sweat, and tears and all that. That's a lot that you have there, right? You don't want a tenant to sue you.
Yeah, that would be bad.
You don't, that'll be bad. You don't want them to just kind of throw a party, have some sort of guest come over, slip, fall, break their necks, and then boom, you're going to be not going to be in a great position there, right? So there are some trusts that could provide some of that liability protection here.
Interesting.
Yeah. So what I typically recommend is, you should have a trust, either a revocable trust, one that you can continue to make changes throughout your lives, or an irrevocable trust to give you that liability protection. Or another great opportunity, especially for landlords, if you have a rental property, go create some sort of entity. Go create an S corp. Go create an LLC. Put the property into that LLC or that S corp. Make sure the interests of that entity is into your trust. So moving forward, you have that liability protection, you have the succession plan, you avoid probate, you're going to save yourself a lot of money, a lot of time.
Isn't it really expensive, though, to get that all set up?
If you imagine the consequences of not having that set up, and you were then asked that question, hey, would you mind throwing a couple $1,000s at this? You would absolutely take it.
So you're telling me a probate on the average property in San Diego is about $1 million.
Yeah.
Probate for something like that is going to be about how much more than setting up a trust?
Yeah. So for $1 million average home value here in San Diego, that will roughly cost about 50 grand.
Whoa.
50 grand.
Wow.
So a fraction of that, right? Maybe 10%, 5% of that is going to be what's used to establish a trust.
Wow. So why don't more people do this?
You know, Peter, when you hear about trusts, there's just this misconception that, oh my gosh, I'm not a multimillionaire. I don't need a trust. I don't need my kids to be like these trust fund babies. And it's a misconception, completely a misconception. Generally, if you own a home, if you have children, if you have a business, whatever it is, you should have a trust.
Okay.
You should have a trust. You don't need to be the 0.1% of the population. Any of those trigger points come in, create a trust. Because if you don't, probate kicks in, conservatorships kick in. The money that you would have saved from creating a trust is now going to be 10-fold, 20-fold when you have to leverage the courts.
Yeah. What are the most common mistakes that come up when people are setting up their trust? Because I'm sure there's people that go on to LegalZoom or some of these other, third-party sites that, I can just do it really quick for $50 or $100.
No, totally. And that's the thing, right? Those do-it-yourself type of situations they're AI, they're computer scientists, they're not attorneys, they haven't practiced law. So when you engage in self-dealing specifically, you just don't know what you don't know.
Okay.
And you may be guided appropriately as far as the prompts are concerned. Hey, what are your kids' names? Who do you want to get it? Who's going to be the trustee? All very necessary, important stuff. But when you get into the details as far as, hey, if you want everything to be 50-50 and you want to make sure that you play no favoritisms, and if that program says, why don't you put both of your kids as co-trustees, but they absolutely hate each other and they're living in different parts of the world, it's going to be pretty tough to manage a trust.
Yeah, for sure.
So again, that's where you ideally would want to have a professional with some knowledge and experience to help guide through the process. AI, fantastic. That's great. That's a good first start. You want to be able to dig deeper here, right? Because guess what? The way to test a trust, if it works, is if you pass away or if you can't.
So it's too late at that point to make any changes.
Exactly. It'd be pretty difficult, right? Yeah. To pull you from the grave and ask you, hey, what do you mean by this particular clause, right? Is this what you really want? So you want to proactively plan ahead of that stuff. Plan ahead of time for that.
Got it. So how often should people be reviewing their trusts?
Yeah. So rule of thumb, every 3 years. It's not necessary to do it every year. Every 3 years periodically. Or if there is a major event, a major trigger that happened, if there is a birth of a new child in your family, if there's a death of somebody that you named in that document, if relationships have come and gone, right? If you acquire new property, if just you move to another state, if you move to a new place, so on and so forth, right? There's certain triggers that generally would circumvent the every 3 year period, but generally every 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not every 3 years.
Yeah.
Wow. So are there any instances where people maybe don't need to have a trust?
Yeah. So every time when I mentioned that, hey, if you have a home, if you have kids, you have so on and so forth, you should have a trust. if you don't have a home, if you just have financial accounts, if you have a very quote unquote have a simple estate where you don't have any real family here, right? May not be a situation here where you absolutely need a trust. Again, usually trusts are best to deal with. In my profession, in my experience, yeah, you can have powers of attorney, you can have a bunch of those ancillary documents, but banks don't really like to use powers of attorney. There's a lot of fraud situations involved. They like trusts. They like to have assets held in trust. Title companies like trust, right? Because it's a just time true tested situation here, right? So there's some instances where, yeah, you may not necessarily need a trust if you don't have all those necessary asset items here. But gosh, if you own a home, just about necessary to have a trust.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. What if, for instance, if you pass away, what do you care if it causes problems for other people?
Great question. Great question. And honestly, some people may fall into that category, right? It's like, hey, I just want to take care of myself. But for the most part, and I may have just like such ruby colored eyes with all of this, but I tend to think that people are incredibly generous. People engage in love and love others. So hopefully that will resonate with a lot of people where, hey, yeah, I care about somebody else other than me. And I want to give some sort of gift to them where, hey, let me give you some peace of mind here, right? Where, yeah, I'm going to take care of myself first, but then if there's anything left over, yeah, you're going to be able to get it.
Without all the friction that could possibly happen.
Bingo. Yeah. And then at the root of estate planning here, Peter, it's not really about the stuff. Yeah, practically that's going to be the case, but it's really about the relationships. What do you want to retain? How do you want to keep the relationships, especially if you're no longer around?
Got it. Okay. And one thing I did appreciate when my wife and I came to you and we did our trust planning, there was a lot of questions that we really didn't know answers to. Yeah. Questions like, well, what happens when, if you were to pass away, what happens to your minor children? Yep. Who do you want to have take care of them? And I remember there were a lot of those questions that really stumped me. And I was like, well, I don't know. That's, do I want to put that burden on somebody or but what I really appreciated in the process of that you talked us through was you're able to probe deeper on those questions where if I'm going on LegalZoom or one of these other electronic platforms, there's zero human element to that. No. There's zero human element. And a trust is very much the human element.
That's what it is.
And so being able to have that feedback and those deeper questions, and I couldn't even tell you what all the questions you asked me were, but I do remember being completely stumped. And then you asked me a couple follow-up questions and the answer was very apparent.
Yeah.
And so if I were to be going on LegalZoom, there's no way I would have been able to do that. And maybe I would have made a right choice, but I don't know, maybe not. So I did walk out of that. My wife and I walked out of that very at peace with what we had set up and the plan set up. And it's been a couple of years, so we'll probably have to review that pretty soon. Yep. Life changes, and so it's been very eye-opening because, until that point, I'd always thought trusts are this big, scary, complicated, legal, like it was hard for me to wrap my head around it. And really, when I sat down with you and your team, it was very much just very human. Yeah. And it was so easy. And why I didn't do it sooner, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of barriers to all that, right? Yeah. I mean, you hear some of the stories where, oh man, if I talk about my death, I will die later. Like, I don't know, maybe, right? Maybe that's just part of the cards, right? But again, it's always good to have a plan. And the beautiful part about specifically these revocable trusts is, you can change it. We have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow, let alone 3 years, 10 years from now, right? Most likely your life will change.
Sure.
And you want to make sure that the goals that you've established previously still align with what that will be in the future. So you want to always have that back door, especially of just making sure, hey, circumstances have changed. Maybe this one child just moved to a different part of the world and it won't be necessarily be flexible to come and manage affairs, right? If something should happen to you guys, yeah, maybe. But this other child that you thought, oh boy, needs a lot of maturity.
You wrote them off a long time ago.
Exactly, right? But again, you never know, right? So always leaving that door open to just kind of make sure that, hey, if your voice was presently there and circumstances change, we'll still be consistent with what you want. That's
Perfect.
really what it is.
So let me, for the listeners, how can they get in touch with you? And are there any services that you offer for getting people, started in the trust process?
Yeah, absolutely. So the best way to reach out to us is just going through our website, just ignaciolaw.com, ignaciolaw.com, IGNACIO law.com.
Easy.
Yeah. Generally easy there. So there's a floating banner over there that says, hey, if you want $500 off any of the any plans that you want, go attend a seminar. Seminars are a really awesome opportunity for us to initially meet with folks because when individuals go and see an attorney, they just get kind of freaked out a little bit. Right?
Sure.
So this is just a very informal way to get to know me, get to know my team, have a really awesome understanding of what estate planning is all about, learn a lot of these things, and we want to give them that hour back that they're investing in the form of $500 off. So total win-win. If there's no obligation whatsoever, they can at least just come in, have a good breakfast, and just kind of learn about the process. If they want to move forward something else, that's great. But if they want to engage us, they'll know what our process will be like by going and attending a seminar.
So it sounds like this is like the opposite of a timeshare presentation.
Basically, yeah. So we're not going to ring you here for like 2 hours here, right? It's like, no, both your spouse need to be coming in here. Nothing like that. Just incredibly flexible here. We just want to make sure that we meet people where they're at, explain what this process will be like, just because, man, we engage in probate. We presently have 20 probate matters all over the state right now.
Wow.
I don't like doing probates. I'd rather engage with people in creating trusts here,
Sure.
right? Because dealing with the courts is just such a pain to deal with.
Yeah.
Right? So we want to literally help people avoid the probate process if they can help it. And again, creating a trust, creating a plan that works will allow that to happen.
Fantastic. Well, hopefully our listeners check out ignaciolaw.com, get hooked up with Mark and his team. They're fantastic. When you have a chance, go down in the image here, click subscribe, shoot me a 5-star review, and make sure you tell your friends. Make sure that you are the smartest landlord in the room, and you get that by listening to all of these episodes. So again, Peter Carlseen with the Property Playbook, and thank you for joining us.